Today we have Mr. Henry with us. He's the Regional Director, Food and Beverage. He's working in Great Canadian Gaming Corporation. Let's welcome him.
Thank you, Harry. Thanks for
Hello,
having
Henry.
me.
How are you?
Very well. Thanks, Harry. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Welcome. It's almost after 19, 20 years we are seeing each other. I'm
I know.
happy to see you and how has been we're going to discuss in this 1 hour how your journey from Swiss Hotel Management School uh, and moving to Canada and now as a director, what's your journey? That's the
Yeah.
first segment. In the
Okay.
second segment, we'll also touch on what were your learnings in this journey, life's lessons, what you have learned. And then next, we move on to how this COVID has affected your gaming industry and what are the new areas, practices which you're going to bring into practice, taking the new normal into consideration, what all you're going to implement. And then we'll have some questions. So then we'll go from there. So first, I'll start with this. Who is Mr. Henry? Where is he from? Where did he do his schooling? And about college, about Swiss Hotel Management School. So you can start.
Okay.
Over to you.
So I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa. So I grew up in Ghana in a large family. So we lived in a big house with the uncles, the cousins, my sisters, parents. So at a point in time, we had about 25 people living in a big house. So um, I grew up with such a large family. So I learned a lot in the early years about the importance of the extended family, especially in the Ghanaian culture that we have it. And also during the early years of growing up, I got instilled into me the values of family, honesty, working hard, having integrity, and being kind to people. Back in 1996, when I graduated from high school, in those days, there weren't many universities in Ghana. So when you graduate from high school, you have to stay home for 2 years because there was already a backlog of people before you waiting to get into university, as there weren't enough universities in the country. So during that time, I stayed home for 2 years and running errands for my parents. And that was the time when my mom had opened her own restaurant. So I was helping her with that restaurant, bussing tables, taking orders, serving drinks, and getting to know people. And I realized during that time that I had a passion for this. So even though I had studied agricultural science in high school, within those 2 years, I quickly started thinking of the hospitality industry just because of the introduction that I had with my mom's restaurant. So a few months or years later, Swiss Hotel Management School came to Ghana to do a presentation. So my dad and I went for the presentation, and we were sold on the idea going to
Okay.
Switzerland to study hospitality management, right?
Okay.
We didn't have the money. My parents didn't have the money at that time, but they did all they had to do. They sold all the lands that they had and all the ship, the cattle, and they sent me abroad to study.
Okay.
So while I was in Swiss Hotel Management School, I did the 3-year diploma program there. And that was where I had the opportunity to learn the fundamentals of hospitality, really like the Swiss way, food and beverage management, um, housekeeping management, hotel operations. And then, I got to know some great people like yourself, during time staying there, right? Um, so the Swiss life was quite extraordinary for me. It opened my eyes to the industry. And you know how we have internships during the semesters, and that also prepared me for the years ahead. um, in Switzerland. So after graduating in Switzerland, um, I had to apply for jobs in the States and in Switzerland just to see whether, I could live there after graduating, or whether to go back to Ghana after graduating or wherever. So I was lucky to have found a job with a high-end country club in Palm Beach, Florida. So I remember before leaving Switzerland, I had a few months for my visa to expire in Switzerland, and I had my visa interview for the US. I went to Bern, the capital,
Okay. Uh-huh.
for my interview at the US embassy, and it was one of the times that was really high tension for me, because I I got interviewed by a lady, and she looked at my passport and she says, "Have you been denied visa to the U.S. before?" And I said, "No." And then she interviewed me and told me to go for 2 hours and come back for another interview. Right? So I didn't know why it was so complicated at that time, and I was feeling like, okay, could there have been something? So they sent me back. I roamed around the city of Bern for like 2 hours, sightseeing, and then I came back. There was a second person who interviewed me again, asked me a bunch of different questions, and also asked, "Have I ever been rejected trying to apply for the US?" I said no. So eventually, I got issued the visa, but later they explained to me that I had in my passport a stamp from the German embassy, which was a rejection I got years ago in Ghana when I was trying to visit for vacation and I didn't get the visa. So that came to haunt me later,
Oh,
because they were not sure whether it had come from the US or not. There was a stamp, right?
okay.
So, but lo and behold, I got the visa. I was really excited about it. And that was in 2001 when I moved to the US to work for the Frenchman's Creek Country Club, which is a very high end golf and country club in Palm Beach, Florida. I spent 5 years there, and they had a fantastic management training program, which really built me up. During my years there, I had to always pay for my visas, right? Because I was on a J1 visa, which is a professional visa you start with, and then you're able to move on to an H1B, that kind of thing. So it wasn't that cheap to live there as a professional. You had to always be paying your immigration lawyer thousands of dollars just to keep your visa going. So I lived and worked for Frenchman's Creek for about 5 years, and at that point, I felt my progression with the company had stalled. So I started thinking of other ways of moving up, and so I started applying to other companies. And in those times, it wasn't easy for companies to sponsor people,
True,
right?
true.
So if you have an employer who brought you into the country, it wasn't easy to just leave, because they sort of have guaranteed or have sponsored you for your visa. So I remember the opportunity at that particular club was that every summer I would go up north to New York to work, because the country club business was very seasonal, and the members move up north in the summer when it's too hot in Florida, and they come back in the winter to Florida when the weather is conducive.
Okay.
So we also have to move with that type of flow, and that created opportunities for me to work in Long Island, New York, with some fine clubs out there, and Fishers Island, New York as well. So my last job that I had in Fishers Island, New York, was where I met a general manager who was very impressed with my work. and I told her my story, and she says, Henry, I'm gonna help you. It's time for you to grow and move on to the next level. So I'm gonna do my best to help you. And she did. She was able to use her contacts or connections with other general managers to see who needed an F&B manager, but then was willing to sponsor um, with an H1B. So she was able to link me up with a club in Vero Beach, Florida, which is about an hour and a half away from Palm Beach, Florida. And so they were willing to sponsor me with my H1B, and I got a fantastic job as food and beverage manager. So I moved to Vero Beach, Florida, with my girlfriend at that time, and we both moved there, and we spent 3 years with that company. It was great during that time period, just because we kept spending a lot of money to renew our visas. I said, okay, let me have a plan B, even though I had applied for my green card. At the same time, a friend of mine, I'm sure you probably would know him. He was also from SHMS. His name was Vish. And he advised me that, Henry, Canada is also a great country and you should try to apply. So I had that as my plan B. And I applied to Canada for my permanent residency. And lo and behold, the permanent residency for Canada came before my green card in the States. So I said to my fiance at that time, I said, okay, let's pack our things and let's move to Canada. So we paid a shipping company, came to our house, picked everything up, and that guy happened to be a scam. So he took all our belongings and never showed up in Canada. Right?
Oh.
So we arrived in Canada with whatever we had packed in one of our cars, but the rest of our belongings never showed up. And, it happened. We learned from that. we settled in Toronto when we arrived in Canada. And my fiance at that time was very quick to find a job. I didn't find a job immediately. It took me 2 months to find a job. So you can imagine how frustrating that could be.
That period,
So, yeah, that period was quite difficult. It was frustrating because then here I was, as an F&B manager coming into Canada, and I knew that there were opportunities here, but it wasn't that ready and easy and quick for it to happen. So 2 months, and then my fiance was having second thoughts. She was like, Henry, maybe you can go back and start waiting on tables, in the meantime. So I said, just hang in there. I know something good will come. So 2 months exactly, I had been applying for a lot of jobs, and I got this interview at the Caesars Casino Windsor for a food and beverage manager position. And I got that job, which was fantastic. So I moved to Windsor, which was about 4.5 hours away from Toronto by train.
Okay.
So I moved to
Okay.
Windsor, and my fiance stayed in Toronto. So every day's off, I would take the train 4 hours and back and forth. So we did that for like 3 years of staying apart. And we got fed up with that, and we said, okay, we got to live somewhere. We can all live together and stop this, So we started looking for opportunities, and that's how I landed a job in Edmonton with the River Cree Resorts and Casinos. So then we moved to Edmonton. I spent some time with that casino, and then moved on to Pure Canadian Gaming. I worked for Pure Canadian Gaming Casinos as well. And after my first year, I did so well that I got promoted to regional food and beverage manager. So during that time period that we lived in Edmonton, I took it upon myself to go back to school to do my MBA. And I think that was one of the best decisions I ever made, because it really opened my eyes. and it made me a better leader. So it wasn't easy, but I went back to school at the same time, being an F&B regional F&B manager for 2 casinos at that time, overseeing 2 casinos. But I had to really organize myself to be able to study and run 2 casinos at the same time, and went through that. And in 2 years, I completed my MBA, and further opportunities came up in Vancouver here with Great Canadian Gaming, and I took that opportunity, and that's why I'm here today in Vancouver.
Good,
So
good.
that's a gist of my journey.
Well, this whole story, I think a movie can be taken, a Indian movie can be with the experiences that too. The
Bollywood style. This one.
okay, okay. The reason is the next question is, apart from this one incident where you told about the belongings, where a person didn't come to Canada, what were the other learnings in life which you this entire, if you look back this period, what are the life lessons you have learned?
Yeah. So you know, that company that took our belongings and never returned them, um, it made me understand that you can't everybody's word for what they say, um, or for who they say they are, that they are legitimate or that they are honest, right? That was a big learning, and that if you want to hire somebody to do a job for you, you better do the due diligence and try to understand whether they are genuine, whether they're not gonna, scam you. So it made me to be more careful. Yeah.
Okay. And apart from that, when it comes to reaching here, what were the other areas, like, professionally, what were the hurdles which you faced? Are there any areas which you had to undergo some challenges, or was it something which you could handle?
Oh, lots of lots of hurdles.
Okay.
But I'll talk about a few hurdles and experiences that I had. Like for example, I always use this as an example when I talk to my employees. Like
Hmm.
there was a time in Switzerland when I first, went for my first internship.
Okay.
You in the country, cultural shock. I got a fantastic job with a gastronomic restaurant on Lake Geneva, but
Okay.
in the kitchen,
Okay.
right? And they always made like intricate plates. It was like food was an art, and gastronomic food, and always delicious and high end place. So I got a job in the kitchen, but the main challenge I had was that everybody in the kitchen primarily spoke French, and at that time, my French was comme ci comme ça,
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't it wasn't good. So that created a lot of hurdles for me in the kitchen. There was a lot of yelling and yelling, shouting, verbal abuse in the kitchen. That was a really tough time for me as an introduction to Switzerland or to my career. And I
Okay.
remember I was always, saying, am I gonna quit today? Anytime I went to the job, but I endured for 6 months,
Hmm.
throughout the internship, and I learned a lot from that first experience, because it made me to be more detail oriented and to pay attention to details, and to also be a better leader, to say that when I become an executive chef or a director, I wouldn't like to treat my staff that way. So that was the learning I got from there.
Okay.
But there are a lot more, but I
No,
think that is
no,
probably a good one.
okay. No, because when I met you in Switzerland, uh, you, Subaya, Malik, and you were able to speak French, and that's like something new to us. Like when I came, I think 2000 when I met you, uh, especially in Grotto or in we met at the restaurant
Yeah,
where you at least some conversational level French
yeah,
was already there.
yeah,
Good, good. Okay,
yeah.
now we move to the second section of the program
Mhm.
where we discuss about how does gaming industry work operate. Just an outline is fine. What is gaming industry for people who do not understand the concept of it, and how does it function? And the second portion of it is like due to COVID, how it has affected the operations.
Yeah, so the gaming industry, um, it's it's a huge industry that it's for entertainment, food and beverage, um, people trying to have a nice time out. Um, the gaming industries also have like shows and concerts. So it depends on the resort um, or casino. It could have all these attributes, hotels and all that. So it all comes together to form a casino resort. And for instance, the company that I work for, the gaming industry is seen as an entertainment, is part of that entertainment industry. People come, they gamble, they have fun, and and there are people that come in there and have in mind that they want to win some big money. It doesn't always pan out. So there are times too that you might win, but they always say the house always wins, but there are times that customers also win huge sums of money. But
Hmm.
I would say it's practically or basically for entertainment,
Hmm.
and but then you would also find people who are professional gamblers or professional poker players who come into that industry, and when they visit, they would definitely want to have something to drink or want to eat something or want to watch a show before going to play on the gaming floor, or they might even stay at your hotel. So um, the gaming industry, it's quite a huge one that is necessary for the economy. So from the Canadian Gaming Association, it says the gaming industry here in Canada employs some 182,000 people in Canada alone, right? So, and they pay about $1 billion in wages monthly. So, all the casinos and the gaming and facilities and bingo halls in Canada helps really with the economy. And not only that, um, there are lots of industries and companies that rely on the gaming industry to thrive, because they provide goods and services to casinos and the industry, right? So it's really a huge sector for the economy.
Okay. Now, when it comes to this COVID, what were the precautionary steps which you have to take now for this post-lockdown period? How is the scenario there in Canada now?
So in Canada now, the scenario is getting better in a
Okay,
lot of provinces.
okay,
So it's getting better, especially here in BC. Our cases have gone down dramatically, and we've been doing very well. Um, but casinos in BC are still not yet open. Right, we are taking it very slowly. We want to be very careful. So we are watching other provinces who have opened, other provinces in Canada who have opened, and Las Vegas has opened. So we're watching them very closely, and we are learning from how things are going. But I see technology playing a big part in the new normal, right?
okay,
So you have online reservations that is being enforced really well now with a lot of restaurants, hotels. You better have a reservation because they don't want to go over their occupancy if that's a restaurant that is always busy, people want to make sure that they reserve before they go. And through that as well, they are able to capture details of the customer who has reserved any group, so that in case there's contact tracing that needs to be done, details are already saved in the reservation system so they can follow up. There's also touchless paying systems, which is becoming the new normal. People don't want to be touching the pad of the Visa terminal. So it's more touchless now, and
Okay.
you touch your card and you tap your card and you pay without touching the system. There's also digital menus, whereby a lot of casinos and restaurants and businesses are using QR codes. You scan your code and you can see the menu on your phone by scanning a QR code.
Okay.
And also, like we are talking now, more and more people are having their meetings and conferences online on Zoom calls, Facebook video calls, and all that. That's the new normal now, right? So technology is really playing a big role. On the gaming floor, the new normal in a lot of places means that not all slot machines are being used anymore, right? Because of
Oh,
social distancing. So
okay.
one slot machine is turned on or is being used, and the next one is probably not gonna be used until you skip
Okay.
it and go to the next one, so that they can have that 6 feet distance between people. And more people are gonna be employed to make sure that slot machines are being cleaned when somebody leaves a slot machine after playing. It should be sanitized. So you have to put somebody to watch the floor and to see how people are moving about, right?
Mm.
Cleaning. The dice that they're using to roll the dice
Ah,
for
ah, ah.
games, the chips, all are gonna be disinfected regularly, and playing
Wow.
cards will have to be switched out regularly as well. And I see in Vegas they have for table games, they have plastic screens that are separating the dealer at the craps table or the roulette table. They're
Oh,
separating the dealer with a plastic
and
screen from the customers. And also, they're using screens to separate customer from other customers. At the same time, maintaining the social distancing. So that means there'll be less people at the table, right? So that's the new normal on the gaming floor. In food and beverage, I see the new normal, like from what I've learned or seen happening, is that there's a lot more outdoor dining, because people don't want to be confined in the restaurant, in the room, but then they want to be outdoors, especially in the summertime right now. Lots more outdoor dining, which is good, and there's free airflow, less contamination that way. There's also alcoholic beverages being
mm.
taken out now. Now provinces have allowed the takeout of alcoholic beverages. So when you can stay at home, order your meals from a restaurant, and you can also order your bottle of wine to go with it, right? So
Oh,
that's allowed now because of the COVID, and that helps to generate some a little bit of beverage sales for the restaurants, and I see the new normal as well being that a lot of labor cost is gonna go up, because now you have to engage um, people or ushers to direct people and to ensure they are following the social distancing in your facility. So now adding more bodies on a schedule, somebody just directing traffic, making sure that um, people are using the entry points only for entry and the exit points only for exit. You don't want people coming in and going out through the same door. So
okay. I'm
take
going out.
more
Okay.
people to usher
Okay.
people and direct the flow of traffic, right? So that's also a new normal there. So now your labor is gonna go up um, because of that, and also productivity is gonna be a problem. It's gonna be low because there's gonna be segregation of duties, right? In the restaurant
Mm.
now, you can't have somebody really multitasking, same person clearing the plates, same person taking your order, taking the dishes to to the dishwash. There's a lot of contamination happening.
Oh,
So you're gonna be
yeah.
able to segregate the duties, right? So that would mean adding more people on the roster, which
Oh,
eventually would affect labor. So management has to consider all these variables and not sacrifice the health and safety of their employees and customers, but then they have to consider all these variables and how they're gonna manage the labor cost. One other thing I think is also gonna be a new normal will be the cleaning supplies and expense on disposables is gonna go up, right?
okay.
Because now you have to constantly be cleaning your high
Yeah.
touch points in the restaurants, in the hotels. So cost of supplies is gonna also go up. So
Automatically.
I think that management would have to start figuring how to work with suppliers so that they can have a better price or rebate. If let's say they buy a lot more, they get a discount and that kind of thing. They have to work something out, take advantage of trade discounts and that sort of thing, which will be necessary. Yeah, so that's some of the new normal that have seen happening in the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a chance to, you have a time machine, okay, and you're able to go back to 20 years, 20 years Henry, you can go. What would you advise that 20-year-old Henry?
20-year-old Henry, time machine. Well, I
Uh,
would say, hmm, um, cherish, cherish the time and make use of of that time because when it goes, it never comes back again, right? And time
exactly.
moves fast, fast, and there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
Learn as much as possible from your friends, your colleagues, from your bosses. Learn as much and have a goal. If you want to become a director, you want to become an
So,
executive chef, start thinking of that and have a goal for the future. Yeah.
okay. Okay. Now, who do you consider as mentors? It can be from family or from outside or any inspirational icon. But who do you consider as mentors for you to be who you are today? Who has inspired you to get clarity?
Yeah, I think I've met a lot of great people and worked for a lot of great general managers and mentors. But for me, it goes back to my family. I would say my mom and my dad, I would say, are my mentors because right from infancy or childhood, they instilled in me all the necessary values that I needed for life. Working hard, being honest, helping people, being caring to others, and treating people with respect. And over the years, I've seen them deal with situations and how they handled um, challenges that came their way in the family. And for instance, my mom having her restaurant wasn't the only business that she had started. She had done a lot of different things like making soap to sell, selling honey, selling provisions. So at an early age, I saw the things that was happening in the family and some of the skills that my mom had. And at the same time, my dad, he had worked for a big company as a manager, and he would take me to work just so that as a kid I could see how his job was, and he would take me on trips
Mm.
and visit because his job had entailed traveling to other parts of Africa by road. So we went on a lot of journeys by road, and those experiences that I had with him on the road were just priceless. You know, we encountered a lot of things on the road over the course of time, and that gave me really an experience that I took with me for my life.
Okay. Now, when it comes to this food and beverage industry, many people who are not from food and beverage normally venture into opening their own restaurants, and most of the time it clicks. And on the contrary, when people like us who have finished courses in food and beverage and hotel management, hotel administration, hospitality, tourism, business, when they venture into it, starting their own, not so quite likely make it to the top. Why do you think so? People from no educational background are able to be successful most of the time, or at least this is the scenario I see in Asia, where people from the hotel industry, when they open, either they end up giving it to another person to run the show, run the place, or they sell it. They lease it or they sell it. Why do you think that? Why do you think that contrary thing happens? Ironic to see.
Well, I don't know about if people who have the educational background are not being successful versus people who do not. But I can tell you that um, in general, if you have the passion to open a restaurant,
Hmm.
um, you first need to know what you're doing, right? So
Hmm.
do your legwork.
Hmm.
Um, Investigate, research, make
Hmm.
sure that the area where you want
Hmm.
to have your restaurant is the right
Hmm.
area. Make sure you have a market for whatever cuisine you wanna have out there. So do the legwork first, and before you invest into such a place, right? A lot of times, I think the location is important. Knowing about the market and the theme of the restaurant is also important. You can't be selling, let's say, hot dogs and hamburgers at a place that does not want hot dogs and hamburgers, right? So you need to know your market and what
Right.
they like. I think those things are key for success, and you need to also enjoy and have the passion for the restaurant business. If you don't have the passion for it, you don't have customer service etiquette, people are gonna come to your restaurant and you treat them badly, you treat your employees badly, it's not gonna work, right? So all those things are, I think, key for having a successful restaurant.
Okay. Thank you. We have a question from one of the viewers, Mr. Bibon Sotpor. He has asked, how was it like moving to a new country and culture to work?
Um, Moving to a new country and culture to work. Um, so for me, um, like I gave the example for Switzerland,
Hmm.
my first experience of leaving Africa, um, I had the cultural shock, right? But
Hmm.
all those journeys after living in Switzerland for 3 years and then going to the States, all that built me up to make me more comfortable, right? But my first year,
Hmm.
I still had to get used to my new environment in
Hmm.
Switzerland. But by the time I got to Canada, I was already used to living in North America and living abroad, right? So it was easy for me then, but the beginning was not that easy. But now, getting to Canada was very comfortable because I had lived in the States already for close to 10 years before coming to Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
And being in Canada now, many people, as you said, when they finish their studies in different parts of US or in a different country, they would like to come to Canada, they would like to move to Canada. How is the scenario now when it comes to immigrating to Canada with this COVID happening and the lockdown and that scenario? Has it reduced or the craze is still there?
Well, I think the immigration system it's also right now has slowed down, or they are not working because due to the COVID there was a total shutdown of the economy and the system,
Hmm.
so people weren't working. So I would say there's a long wait time for people to hear back from the immigration um, applications that they've sent through. So right now, definitely there is a slowdown. But I believe when this is said and done and COVID blows over, um, it will start again, and more and more people will start flocking to Canada again. But I think right now there's a holdup in the system.
Okay. Okay. Now, another thing is when people actually migrate and when they come and settle down. For example, like people from Switzerland, when they moved to US, there were few associations who are helping students in setting up their house or finding a place to, getting like-minded people as to share the place, things
Yeah.
like that. That kind of support was given to students. Is there any system like that you also have in Canada? Because recently I came to know uh, what I've seen 10 years before. It's still being continued in US. So people from hospitality colleges, irrespective of whichever college, but if they come from a particular country, they all help each other.
Yeah, yeah,
Ir-
yeah.
and when I went, I had this group of friends who were supporting me, and the only thing they ask is when the new batch comes, I don't have to pay them back, but I have to take care of the new batch which is coming.
That's nice.
By the time, so this system is there in US. Anything like that we see in Canada?
I when I got to Canada, I didn't start by studying. So in Canada, I wouldn't be able to tell you whether there is or there isn't. But I believe that the same system that you experienced
Hmm.
because of friends that you made and all that, I believe that that same ideology could be here as well. It's just humans helping each other and being kind to each other. So if you join a university, um, make sure that let's say before you come over, you've interacted with people who are also going to be in your class or in your cohort, and try to
Okay.
talk to them, because some of them might have answers to your questions or your challenges that you feel you might face when you come to Canada. So if you start interacting with your classmates or your cohorts ahead of time, if you know their contacts, because a lot of times um, the university will share information about the people who are in your class and your cohort, and you can start communicating before you even arrive. So if that's the case, then that's helpful, and you can try to figure things out and ask for help and assistance. And universities always have departments that assist students. So challenges like that could be taken to that type of department at the university.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And if you see, apart from this kind of formal education, lot of education from life has helped you to be who you are. If you tell, like, if there's any life education, practically by experiencing trial and error, or from directly experiencing it and maybe not clicking the first time, and then by practice you picked up certain habits. What do you think are the core habits which is helping you to be successful?
I think the core habits for me, I would say having, I would say being respectful to
Okay.
everyone, treat everyone with respect, whether you are the boss or they are your boss, if they are your associates or your colleagues, treat everyone with respect and with dignity. Be honest, because then people can trust you, and the more people trust you, they can rely on you, and good things will happen through that. Be hardworking. If you have a passion for something, go for it and work towards it. Don't listen to naysayers. Um, you have a passion for something, make sure you make that your goal and work towards it. And yeah, and slow but surely, be patient, and you will eventually get there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Now, tell me about the books or any uh, gurus or any audios or videos which you listen regularly to help you stay motivated. Are there any books which you regularly follow, or any video, TEDx talks or anything like that?
For books, I would say there's one that stands out to me. Um, it's a book that was given to me by one of my GMs. It says the 1 minute, the one minute manager meets the monkey, something like that. But I really enjoyed that
Mm,
book because it's at a point in time of my career where I was struggling trying to manage um, two casinos. There's a lot of stress. And basically, in that book, I learned how to delegate more. And if
mm,
it's not your job, you should make sure that you don't carry that load on you.
mm.
Make sure that that job gets done by the person who is supposed to be doing it. Don't try to do everything because you can't, and that's
Okay.
how people fail. One The 1 minute manager meets the monkey or something like that. That's one of my
Okay.
favorites.
Okay. 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 And working with the multicultural team and managing it, like what are the, if a person who is entering this field, a newcomer, what would be your advice or suggestion? What are the things he or she should be careful about in this field where you're working in food and beverage? Your advice to the newcomers.
Newcomers. Oh, so for newcomers in the industry, food and beverage industry, um, I would say make it a point to listen, learn from your managers, your bosses, and pay attention. Be patient. And also take the time to do research about food and beverage and
Mm,
try to learn on your own. Now, there are lots of avenues to learn about food and beverage. At your free time, there are books. You can go online, you can Google,
mm,
learn recipes, learn how to make a drink. You can get all that information online. So
mm.
don't wait for your manager to train you on how to do that. So be ahead of the game, and that's gonna give you more confidence. The more you learn and you know about how to prepare meals or how to prepare a drink and how to handle customers, that's gonna give you confidence, right? So then with that confidence, you can take it and run with it.
Okay. Now, we have come to the last segment where you can actually thank people who you'd like to thank. It can be from family or from your friend circle or from your workplace. If you'd like to thank anybody, you can thank now. And how it has helped you in your life, you can mention that as well. For you to be
Yeah,
who you are today.
yeah. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Almighty God for life and for bringing me this far. Um, all the experiences I've had hasn't been easy, but with God on my side, things are possible, and I've been able to get to where I am today. So, first and foremost, glory be to God. My parents, I thank them very much for the endurance and the difficulties they had to go through to send me out and to raise me, and all the teachings in life that they taught me. So a big thanks to them. My sisters, I have about six sisters, and they've all been very supportive of me growing up. Um, I used to always be a kid that always liked all the gifts that were brought to me. I like mine in twos. So my mom would bring food. I want the two of it. Any candy I want to. And I know that was annoying for my sisters, but I don't know if that helped me along the pathways, but I thank them for putting up with me growing up as a, as a kid, right? And I also thank my wife, my lovely wife, for enduring and being with me, supporting me over all these times and years, and also with a lot of managers that have impacted me over the years. Specifically, I would like to mention a manager, a general manager from the Pearl Valley Club, Kevin Given. Lots of Kevin Given gave me a lots of leadership skills to learn and experiences from his side. And also, when I worked for Fisher's Island, that was the first general manager that gave me the opportunity to actually work with Kevin Given, and that's how my career started to evolve and grow. And her name was Pat, and I thank her so much. God bless her soul, and may she rest in peace because she's no longer with us. But I always say a big thank you to her um, for helping me find my next step in hospitality at a time where I knew it was very difficult to switch from clubs because I was on the visa and all that. And she really helped me. Yeah, and always I'm very thankful to the people that I've met along the pathways and have worked with along the pathways. Um, my professors that taught me in Switzerland, in SHMS, in University of Guelph as well. A big thanks to them. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, there's one more last question. When you're not working, how do you relax? What do you do to relax? Is a question. How
Late.
do you spend your free time?
Yeah. So when I'm not working, I've joined a neighborhood gym. So I'm
Okay.
usually lazy to go, but I try, And when I know I'm gonna eat a big meal, I try to go
Uh,
first so that I can work out before coming home and then can enjoy that meal. But I do a little bit of exercising when I can, and then also spend time watching videos, Netflix, at home. Um, from time to time, read some interesting hospitality books. Yeah, and always thinking of, you know, how can we improve ourselves, or what I'm always thinking of some sort of business that I can start, at the same time when I'm, in this industry. I always believe that there's an opportunity to do a lot more if you can. And I don't want
okay.
to only um, pigeonhole myself with hospitality, because I feel God has given us the brain to think, and there's a vast number of things that you can do in this life. And it's not only being a director of food and beverage, but you can actually open up the mind to other, you know, things that you could do in life. So lately, I've been thinking of, what else can I do?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, if you had a magic wand, what 3 things would you change in the world? 3 things you can change. What are the 3 things that you would change?
3 things to change in the world. Um, I would like to. Climate change is happening very fast for mankind, and I would like to hopefully, if I had a magic wand, I would like to reverse the damage we've done on this earth.
Okay. Okay. That's a
I
good.
think, yeah, and also 3 things. So the second one would be having a cure for any type of disease, cancer, COVID.
Okay. Okay.
Swing that wand and
And then they change it. Okay. Okay.
um, and also I would say the third one would be um, making sure that people treat each other with respect, love each other regardless of the race,
Wow.
creed,
Wow.
religion that you have. You know,
Okay.
that would be my three.
That's it. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. You have answered all the questions, and especially the best part was it all came from your heart.
Thank
So I'm sure, I'm sure, similar to me, even the viewers would have enjoyed. And I still remember, it's still green days in Grotto, and when Toto was on the DJ counter and things like that. I still remember
yeah,
that.
totally. Yeah, those were
And
the
I'm really happy to actually reconnect with you after almost 20 years. And thank you so much for your time, Henry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a
Thank,
pleasure. Have a good one.
thank you. You too. Bye. Mr. Henry studied, we all studied at a similar time in the same college. And there were a lot of learnings at that point. And of course, in this past 20 years, what we have gathered, what he has learned, and things which he actually learned in a little bit in a hard way, and things like that, which he shared openly without having any restriction. And it was quite an interesting journey for him, from Ghana to Switzerland to US to Canada. We will have more people like this, and please do support, please do shower your love as usual. Thank you.